everyone. Welcome back to Aaron's Reading Room, and welcome to the 20th edition of My Category Journey. This is going to be an interesting one. We are reading A Blues Singer to Redeem Him by Elle Jackson. I've read the prologue and chapter 1 of this book, and the subject matter of it is going to be incredibly heavy. So I'm not going to be making jokes about this book. It would just be straight up horrible if I did. So yeah, I'm just going to experience it and just let you know how I feel. I was not expecting it from this one, how emotional the subject matter was going to be, but it still had fun elements in it. This one's going to be a whole different ballgame than the Shoe Diaries. The prologue starts out in Greenwood. It's actually kind of interesting. I watched the Lovecraft Country episode of the Tulsa Massacre, and that's exactly where the prologue of this book starts out. It's one of the main characters as a child fleeing the Greenwood district while it's being burnt to the ground and while everyone is being brutally murdered by a mob of awful white people. Even from the dramatic retellings of those, I am positive it does not get to the actual fear of how horrible that was, or just to even try and understand the trauma of anyone that survived something like that is impossible. So we're starting with a character that is going to have a lot of emotional trauma from this. So we'll just have to see where that goes. Chapter 1 follows our other main character, Lorenzo. He's the son of a mob boss, but he left the business when his father tried to pass the mantle on to him. There was a bit of a flashback there. The present time of chapter 1, he's going back, he thinks, to visit his mother, but there's been a murder in the family. Lorenzo's cousin and his black fiance were killed, and they think it might have been the KKK that did it. So Lorenzo's father was asking him to come back and help with this investigation and help with this figuring out who did this. And obviously they're a mob family, so they're planning to get some bloody revenge here. Lorenzo wants justice, but he doesn't want that. He tells his father again, sorry, not interested. So that's where we are. Where it's going from here, I know that there's going to be some kind of club that Lorenzo owns, and we know that Evelyn always dreamed of being a singer, and so Lorenzo needs a new singer, and obviously with the title of this, A Blues Singer to Redeem Him, they're going to end up working together at some point. So I'm going to go on to chapter 2, and I will let you know where things are then. Hello everyone, I've finished chapter 4. I'm going to not be doing chapter by chapter in this book because it is 50 chapters long, so we would end up with an hour-long vlog, and I know no one wants to sit through that. So where are we at? Evelyn has come to Lorenzo's speakeasy, where she wants to audition to be a blues singer there. He's enraptured with her right away. She notices he's a little cute, but he's kind of forward. He does some posturing, some male posturing there, and she's not really impressed with it, even though we're glad that he stepped in. So the KKK is actually trying to throw their muscle around in the neighborhood, and so they were actually trying to convince Lorenzo that he needed to change up his establishment. He did not need to let certain people in, essentially telling him he needs to make it a white establishment. And Lorenzo, as he should, tells them where they can stick it. That's probably going to come back around. Another thing that's going to come back around is that Lorenzo's going to have to make a switch up in his lineup for singers, and that's going to cause some hurt feelings that I think isn't going to just be left here. I think that's probably going to come back to bite him, so we'll have to see where that goes. But great book. The setting is just so all-encompassing, and you just feel like you're in the 20s. I don't think there's anyone alive still that saw the 1920s, and so it's impossible to actually know if it's purely authentic, if it's truly authentic, but it seems like it. So I am happily going on to chapter 5, and I will let you know what happens in another chapter or so. Hello everyone, I've finished chapter 8 and it seemed like a good time to check in with the vlog. There was a bit of a scuffle with a KKK member that was coming into the speakeasy trying to throw their weight around and tell Lorenzo what to do, and that was when Evelyn first came in to try out to be a singer there. So there was a tiny bit of fisticuffs there, and Lorenzo knew it was going to come back at some point, so there was a bigger incident that happened at the speakeasy in retaliation to this, and we were worried that things were going to get a little messy, but there was an unknown element in there that, well, I can't give it away, but it was pretty satisfying, pretty fantastic, and we want to know more. So now everyone's a little on edge, but, Lorenzo's not the type to be pushed around, even though he doesn't want anything to do with the mob part that's associated with his name, but he's got the name and it's still there. That's gonna get interesting here too. It's where we are. I think things are only gonna get messier here, but the attraction between these two is definitely really sweet. It's building slowly, which it properly should, just with where these two are emotionally. So I will go on and read a few more chapters and I'll check in with you then. Hello everyone, I finished chapter 14. Things keep coming back around and Evelyn ended up in a very dangerous situation. Luckily, it did not get to as bad as it could be. I know that's an awful argument of it could be worse. That's like the worst justification for anything. We're glad it didn't go any further. Now Lorenzo and his number 2, Jeb, are trying to see what they can do to keep Evelyn safer. Was a bit of a hiccup there when Lorenzo tried to talk about it with Evelyn, but his number 2 is a little more smooth about working business arrangements, especially with attractive women. We also got to meet Evelyn's brother. We knew about him, but we hadn't seen him yet, so we got to know a little bit about him, got a tiny peek into their relationship, but not too much, so maybe we'll see more of him later. Right now, things seem like they might get a little smoother, but we'll see. This book has a lot of tough moments in it, and that is what the time period was, especially for Black people. It's important to remember how awful things were, just show how especially awful things were for Black people back then. So I'm going to go on and read a few more chapters, and I will check in with you then. Good morning, everyone. I've finished chapter 19. The relationship made some progress, but at the same time, there was some familial threateningness of don't you dare hurt her kind of thing. Also, this just with the situation of the setting, for one, Prohibition era, when a interracial relationship was actually illegal. This puts them in a lot of danger from different directions, from the KKK, from the actual law, from him being connected to the mob. It can be a messy situation. It is a messy situation. So far, it seems like things have been handled as well as they could be, I guess. I mean, things could have gotten better, but it's about to get interesting here because Lorenzo's meeting with his family to get some more information about the murder of his cousin's fiance, and he's going to make a move now, is his own words, against the KKK. But it doesn't seem like it's going to be a violent move because he mentioned himself as killing will just mean more killing. So we're just gonna have to see where things go. So I will read a few more chapters and I'll check in with you then. Hello everyone, I finished chapter 23 and a thing came up that I wanted to just touch on. Lorenzo, he had a moment of checking his privilege or recognizing his privilege when Evelyn explained to him just the difficulties of just being Black in this world where she's treated like a third-class citizen. And that's unfortunately something that is far too prevalent among white people still today. And first, let me recognize that I am speaking to this issue as a cishet, mostly white male that has plenty of privilege that I try and recognize and acknowledge every day, but I'm sure I have a lot more to recognize and learn all the time, and probably for the rest of my life. But Lorenzo's coming to this realization reminded me a lot of public education when I was a child. I'm in the very beginning of millennials, so I'm one of the older millennials. And what we were taught in public school, at least in what was a pretty well-funded school for the time, was that the Civil Rights Act was passed and then racism was over. That's pretty much how it was delivered to us. And unfortunately, I came from a very white area that there really wasn't anyone there to speak up and challenge it. So it took a long time myself to realize that there is the discrimination and racism very much still a thing in the modern day. And, it does a disservice to everyone when we don't acknowledge these things to our children and point them out. As uncomfortable as they are, that's how we avoid repeating history, right? So I just wanted to touch on that briefly. I'll get off the soapbox that isn't even mine. I'm very much enjoying the social and political elements that had to be in this book. It would have felt so disingenuous if these things weren't addressed in here at all. So Elle Jackson has done a fabulous job in just painting this picture for us in this book. So I'm going to keep going on, and I'll check in with you all in a few more chapters. Good morning, everyone. I just finished chapter 28. The danger situation keeps getting cranked up. We've got Lorenzo being connected to a mob family. That's one element of danger. We've got the KKK that's upset with both Evelyn and Lorenzo at this point, upset at his club. Now we have dirty cops involved. Dirty cops just really gets under my skin, and I think a lot of people's skin. There's a lot that can be said about police in the United States today and all the way back to their origins, which was runaway slave catchers. Anyway, trying not to borrow rage here. It's such a common thing, but it is such a violation of the social contract that it's just, in reality, corrupt cops it's disgusting. That just really gets under my skin. That's about all I had to say. This vlog and my tweets for this one are very different, and I don't know, I'm not sure how it's gonna go over, but this is my emotional reaction to this book. This is such a well-written book to put you in that time and to just get you into that emotional space that these characters are in. I hope that my soapboxing and little rants that I've been going on here aren't taking away from the fact that this is an amazing book. So I'm going to keep on reading, and I will let you know how things go. Hi everyone, I finished chapter 33, so what's happening now is there's some familiar pressure on both sides. So Evelyn's grandmother is giving her this white man just wants one thing, obviously, and you should just stay away from him. You should not get involved with this business. She has reasons to not trust white men who are trying to help black women. And, she thinks that the help is always in quotes and that something's going to be asked for in return. Evelyn knows that's not what Lorenzo's doing here, but it's hard to communicate that to her grandmother, who she has a lot of, good respect for. Though I'm not sure how much of that is going directly to Evelyn. Like, grandma's definitely let it known to Lorenzo that she's got her eye on him. And then from Lorenzo's side of the family, the DeLuca mob family, his mother's trying to say, well, let's introduce Evelyn to the family and let's send the signal that she's connected and that'll protect her, but Lorenzo doesn't want to get her involved in that. And they know that the KKK is going to make a move on the club here soon. So there's a lot going on. Lorenzo thinks he has a plan, but we hope it works out. We know it might get messy here. It's already messy. So that's where we are. I'm going to go read a few more chapters and I'll check in with you then. Hello, everyone. I've finished chapter 38. The relationship is progressing. Evelyn and Lorenzo have just kind of fallen into it. They know that there are a lot of outside forces that are telling them no, to not pursue this. There's a lot of internal forces, too, telling them not to pursue this. But they admitted to each other that their feelings are strong enough that they're just not going to think about it, and they're just going to fall into it and see what happens. And there was some lovely moments there. Now, he invited her on kind of a date to one of his wineries, the vineyard, beautiful place. I was a little nervous that there might be some bad actors there to cause trouble. Luckily, that wasn't the case. However, this fundraiser thing that they've been working on for a while is finally happening, but now there's some trouble. There's some signature signs of the clan saying, we're not going to have this. That showed up right at the end of chapter 38. So we're going to have to see where things go. We're going to have to see how Lorenzo reacts to this, if his family has their own reaction to it. We'll just have to see where it goes. Hopefully it doesn't get violent here, but I think that might be unavoidable at this point. So I will read a few more chapters and I will check in with you then. Hello, everyone. I finished chapter 43. Things are in such disarray. So the DeLuca mob family is at war with another mob family that's connected to the corrupt cops and the KKK. Lorenzo's dealing with the KKK wanting to shut down his speakeasy and wanting to come after Evelyn because she's connected to him. It's become known that they're involved with each other. And Lorenzo's making decisions not taking into account how Evelyn feels about things because he's trying to convince himself that he knows better. It's really kind of foolish, though, because he can't live without her. So he's trying to fall on a sword. Evelyn doesn't need him to, and really all the sword's going to do is just hurt him and probably won't protect her like he thinks it's going to. This very dark moment overall. It's the dark moment for the relationship, but this book had just dark moments throughout because this time period, you know, some people look at it of like, oh, the roaring 20s, yeah, flapper girls, it's so fun. But there are a lot of politics. There's always a lot of politics that people forget about. Even things that happened 20 years ago, it seems like people have forgotten about and have forgiven people for awful things that they did. So going back 100 years, of course, no one except historians are going to have a very good concept of what the time was like. Or Elle Jackson, apparently. I feel like this is I'm not an expert myself, but it just feels like this was very, very, very well researched. All right, so that's where we are. All right, I think I'm just going to finish, and I will go ahead and I will see you at the end of the book. Hello, everyone. I have finished A Blues Singer to Redeem Him by Elle Jackson. This was such an incredible book from so many angles. It had a lovely love story. It had an incredible plot. It had historical elements that I don't regularly gravitate to in my reading, and it felt so authentic. Everything inside of it seemed so perfect. It didn't seem like there was a single scene out of place or a single element in the story that didn't belong there or that could be edited out. It was just so good and so enjoyable to read, even despite the difficulty of some of the subject matter. I really hope Elle Jackson writes some more for Harlequin. I don't care if it's still historical. I don't care what line it comes out in. And honestly, I'm going to definitely read more Elle Jackson because if she can construct a story like this, her game is on point. Now, I know that this book didn't really lend itself to my usual tweeting and vlogging shtick. Thank you for bearing with me through it. And once again, I have to reiterate, just because the way that I read and react to books online and the fact that I had to kind of change up my approach for this book does not take away from the fact of how incredible this book is. You need to read this book if you haven't yet. It's such a precise counterpoint to the bad argument that Harlequins are disposable stories. I know that. Harlequin fans know that. But if you're still one of those people that's hesitant to pick up a Harlequin because you've just heard that sentiment or you have that sentiment that handicaps them in some way, it is not true. And this book is perfect proof of it. I would like to tremendously thank Elle Jackson for providing us with this amazing piece of work. I want to thank Harlequin for publishing this book and bringing it to the world and putting it out there. Thank you, all of you, for following along with my category journey. Remember, it's your journey too. So we're going to be moving on to the next book. I'm actually not quite sure what I'm going to read next. So I'm going to put it out on Twitter for some suggestions, and I'm sure you all will be able to help me there. And I hope you all have a wonderful reading journey of your own, and I will see you in the next video.